record. Getting used to this still, but welcome back to the NGF YouTube channel. I'm super excited to be joined here by a really, really great cast. Dylan, you've been here. If people have seen my face, they've definitely seen your face. Super, super stoked to have you. Thanks for coming on. How you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me back. Like I said, at this point, we're a tandem deal. Like we come together. So appreciate you having me.
I don't mind being joined at the hip with you. Ananda, Rob, thank you guys. It's been really good to kind of rejoin the hip a little bit recently. It feels like I've had a phantom twin missing, but it's great to reconnect. How are you guys?
Beautiful, Papa. Thank you so much to you for having us. Really excited to get into everything today. Something I feel like a little different for Galaxy fans, and that's why it's so nice to be here with you guys today.
Yeah, I mean, we also come as a package deal, and unfortunately, I'm attached to the hip in my personal case. But it is what it is.
We don't always choose, right? They say chosen family, but I'm not so sure in your guys' case. But regardless, we're here to talk about something.
He's basically like a primo.
Adopted. Yeah.
Adopted primo. I used to tell my sister that we found her outside of a McDonald's, and we just ended up sticking around. So I definitely relate to that.
Pobre hermana.
Shout out Grace, we love her. But besides that, we're here to talk about the LA Galaxy. We have some big relevant topics we're going to talk about, but this is a soccer conversation at the end of the day. You guys clicked on this video to hear us talk about soccer first and foremost, so let's go ahead and do that. The very first thing I want to talk about is players in the Galaxy who have stuck around, have maybe earned either really big contracts or to take up important roles with the team, or in some cases, some of the richest contracts for managers. But there's some people who have been in the hot seat for a while now, it feels like. We're having the same conversations, and I feel like in almost all of their cases, those conversations are starting to come to a head. So the first one I want to talk about is Novak Mikovic. Is he in or is he out? Recently, he's found his way out of the MLS team. So there's a lot of discussion. Dylan, we just spoke on it on the Clash of Cosmos COC network channel. We spoke about it with you guys as well, Robin and Ananda, this whole JT Marcinkowski coming in for Novak Mikovic, taking that number one spot. What is your guys' read on the situation? We know the context. We know what's happened. Is it time for JT to come in and for Novak to be out? I want to start, I guess, in alphabetical order. Ananda, are you Novak in or Novak out?
Oh man, you're putting me on the spot already. I'm Novak in between. I'm going to be political about this. Because I feel like there are good reasons. There's pros and cons, and there's good reasons on both sides of the fence. But let's put it this way: if I was Greg Vanney, I would have already planned it out to give JT Marcinkowski a shot. Now, does that mean to give him a shot only in cup matches and then also in MLS? Well, based off of the statistics and based off of recent performances, I don't know if I would have pulled the trigger that soon, but if Mitrovic had like a couple of more bad performances, I would have pulled the trigger as well. Because one of the things that I think a lot of Galaxy fans could say about both keepers is that you don't really see a big drop-off. Like there's no clear number one or clear number two. Salary-wise, they're both in and around the same. You could argue that Mitrovic, because he takes up an international spot, is a little bit more invested in than JT Marcinkowski. But I mean, I talked about it the other day on our show, guys. Like Mitrovic, from the stat that we always look at for goalkeepers is how well do they prevent goals from going in the back of their net? This goals minus XG, post shot XG, however you want to call it. Mitrovic is third worst in the league at negative 1.42 now, which means that he probably shouldn't have let in 1 to 2 goals, 1.5 goals more. And if you look at the top 5, just let me put this in perspective. If you look at the top 5 keepers in the league, they all average a post shot XG of 2.5. So they've prevented 2.5 goals from happening. So there's about a 4 goal delta there, or 3. Well, I'm doing my math right. But
you're right. You're right.
There's a pretty big delta. And you see keepers like Christian Kalina, Hugo Lloris, by the way, like 5 clean sheets, right? Brad Stuver, Andrew Thomas, like those guys are actually helping their teams win points.
Yeah, points.
Some cases 1 or 3 points. And that's my only gripe with Mitrovic. He makes good saves, but when he needs to come up with the big save, he doesn't do it, at least consistently enough at least in the 5-game sample set that I've seen this year. Last year, it was he wasn't great in the beginning. He was good in the end, that last 10-game stretch. So he's very up and down. So I'm going to leave it at that. Like, he's in between because of those reasons, but I'm leaning out more than in if I had to pick,
Definitely got the foot out the door. I love everything you said there. I think the one thing I want to put a pin in is that idea of him maybe underperforming the investment just a little bit. The idea of him making big saves but not winning enough points is something Dylan and I talked about recently with Gabriel Peck. So I'm pretty sure we're going to come back to that idea. So I want to put a pin in that. Making to just put a quick bullet on that point, fake stats or overinflated stats, let's just call it that. But love what you said there, Ananda. Let's go down to Rob, our other lacunero.
Yeah, I mean, I think Ananda was, like he said, he was being political. I think I got to be political too, because I don't even think Greg Vanny knows. I mean, I disclaimer, Galaxy Comms, don't pull my press pass. I'm gonna, say a couple true but harsh things. But I mean, if we're just going on vibes, I mean, Greg's been playing with the goalkeepers thing for a couple seasons now. I mean, first he was playing with John McCarthy and Novak Mitrovic's emotions. Now it's JT and Novak Mitrovic. And ever since I started asking Greg about this at the CVI 2 years ago, y'all, 2 years ago, he's like, I think we're going to go this way. And then a couple months later, it's like, all right, I think we're going to go that way. We saw what it's done to the defense, the instability and the back line. I mean, again, I just think it's a hard question because I don't even think Greg knows, but I think that there's a reason Greg doesn't know. Ananda said that there's not a huge drop off between either of them, right? So with that being in consideration, and he was talking about that like huge delta and the top keepers in the league, we see that there's obviously the Galaxy's keeper isn't in that top class, and until we get back to that, we're going to keep having these discussions in who's the number one, who deserves to be number one, who has his foot out the door. When Pineda was between the sticks, no one was having these conversations. When the big cat Donnie Ricketts was between the sticks, no one was having these MS conversations because they were obviously the number one, but they also rose up and seized that shit from the scruff of the neck and said, this is me. I'm the number one. Novak hasn't done that. I mean, John did it to a certain extent. I mean, he won the title and then he got shipped off, right? But in Greg's heart of hearts, like I was talking on LaCuna about not what I want to see happen, but what I think Greg wants to see happen, or what the lineup I think Greg is going to put out. What I think Greg wants to happen is for Novak to come good, A, because of the investment, and B, because he sees something in him. I mean, he's told us a couple times that he likes the fact that he can play with his feet. He is a good shot stopper, but he does lack some of the qualities that a top elite goalkeeper has. Nana talks about that presence all the time, being able to command your back line, being able to communicate with them and tell them what to do, and sometimes get in their face. And that's not Novak. We've not seen that from him. And that, no shade to him, that's just like not his personality. Like Messi's not that vocal leader either. Like not to conflate Novak with Messi, and no shade again to Novak, but some players have that personality, some don't. But in this position, to be successful, most often you need that personality. And again, that's not Novak. But I think Greg wants it to be Novak, and so that's why he's still kind of playing around. Like it's just really like the case of like a relationship, like amiga, date cuenta, like
yeah, it's
just let it go. Yeah, let it go, let it slide. Like, yes, you invested $1 million, but you've been there for 2 or 3 years. It hasn't worked. You're not satisfied. The data is there. I mean, even the vibes aren't there. Right? And so at this point, hey, let's do a clean break. Like, try to move him. He is an asset. He is a talented keeper. He's just not for the Galaxy. I don't think personally.
Is that your way of saying no back out? I'm
Hey,
gonna push.
if you're gonna push, then yes, I gotta say Novak out. Yeah, especially because again, there's not that much of a drop off between him and JT, and then there's a sizable wage gap right there that you can kind of go ahead and get money for that asset. Again, Novak is a talented keeper. If you were to sell him, you can get something there.
Got it. Now that I squeezed the honesty out of you, one idea that I love there, it reminds me of something that Darius mentioned yesterday on Clash of Cosmo. This idea of sorry, the idea left me for a little bit, but Novak Mikovic not.
Go in, son. Go in. Be real, son.
Yeah, no, se me fue the little idea, but oh man, it's something I love that Darius said. Sorry, but it's gonna come back to me. But I guess I'm gonna go ahead and transition to you, Dylan. Are you Novak Mikovic in or Novak Mikovic out?
Yeah, I don't need to be political about it. I'm out. And I think that Greg Vanny's out because his words are telling me that he thinks that he's out. And I don't know if there's any keeper in the history of keepers to lose his job twice. He's lost his job twice. Like,
Yeah.
He lost it last year to John, and then he lost it again here to JT. And we've seen that those international spots are at a premium. We paid a pretty penny for the 2 extra just to get us to the summer. Like, you'd have to assume that Will and those guys are thinking, look, if we're going to go with JT, he's American. Our backup, I think our third keeper is also American. Why are we wasting a valuable resource on a guy that we can't say is our number one? And to your point about drop-off, I think if anything, you can make the argument that in the summer they need to make the investment towards a keeper. I don't know how much you can realistically spend, right? We spent, I think it was like $1 million for him in particular. So
Yes.
I'd like to see a shop within the league. It's similar to a J-Max situation where you're picking up an American keeper who's got some form of track record. The issue is I don't know who that is, and I don't know how many of those guys are available.
Yeah. One thing I guess to talk about, again, just that conversation we had yesterday, definitely check out that Clash of Cosmos episode. But I'm not too concerned on who or how talented even that American keeper would be, because with the defense that Jacob Glesnes and Manu Yoshida are a part of, something that we talked about with Novak Mikovic is that he hasn't had a lot to do. So whoever that goalkeeper is, whether it's JT, anybody else, they're not going to have a ton of shots to face. We don't need someone like Ananda mentioned, who is up there and that they're stopping 2 shots every single game. We could have like a net neutral 0 keeper, and that'll be an improvement from Novak, who's giving up 2 goals a game. So I don't need anything special. I don't need anything crazy, because as Greg Vanny said, we don't give a shit about scoring because our defense is so dang good. It's kind of similar to the goalkeeper. I don't necessarily give a shit about the goalkeeper if our defense is so that good. And I'm super glad, want to put a period there, but you reminded me of that point that Darius made, is that there may be some outside influence. So Darius made this point that there's kind of outside pressures in a lot of clubs around the league. I'm not sure what kind of pressure would exist around Mikovic, but I'm thinking, again, you mentioned it, Dylan, that super high investment, the wages. In the past couple of years, when we've talked about Mikovic, we've talked about the team wanting to get some sort of ROI. I'm wondering how much of an influence that made on his decision, on him staying, on us not making a move sooner.
Yo, can I bring something up real quick?
Please.
We gotta remember that I think it was just last year that he spoke out or something like that, like, I'm not happy with my playing time or something like that, and then he had to be talked to or something like that. But it did culminate in him like losing a couple of games for that. And even before that, there was rumors that he was on his way out. So there's always been like this air of instability around Novak.
Yeah, we're talking about 3-4 years of it as well. It's why are we keeping this around?
Andrew, you brought up a thing that sparked like a thought I had in my head, which is this idea of concentration. Because I remember having this exact same conversation because I'm an Arsenal fan around Aaron Ramsdale. And one of the interesting things that we talked about in that particular analogy or that particular proxy is when a keeper doesn't face a lot of shots. The Galaxy are second best this year, guys, in shots against and shots on target against. Like, we've actually kept it pretty tight in the back. Some keepers, they gain their rhythm and they perform better the more shots they face because they get into that shot stopping rhythm. They're all action. However, some keepers, they don't face a lot of shots, but you need that added level of like when you're not doing anything and you're just hanging out, your concentration has to be max, like 100%, because there might be a break going in the other way, and that's when you need to come up with the big save. I can't prove this with data, but what I do remember is that 10 games. I mean, last year the Galaxy faced a lot of shots on net, so Novak, got into that rhythm. He's a good shot stopper. When you have to come up with the big play, especially when you had nothing to do for about 50, 60 minutes, that's when you need your keeper to come up. And maybe that's not Novak. And that's like a nuanced thing, but that's something for the scouting team to figure out.
That is a fantastic point, and I want to think that the team has recognized that a while ago. So
I was going
to probably know this.
Can I add something real quick?
Please.
Because you guys are all the reporters. I think you guys all heard it. After the Charlotte game, didn't he mention the fact that he enjoys not having to do that much work? Wasn't there like a comment about the saves?
I asked him about that.
Oh,
I don't. Do you get bored out there? And he said he doesn't matter.
Well, unfortunately, the stats are saying the opposite because clearly it's not doing that. So for someone who is telling me one thing, it's really not doing it. And sorry, I'm very out on him. I think I'm just very upset in general. That's why I turned my light red.
You have the right to be, man. You have the right to be. I mean, the results haven't been there, and we've seen it with data.
Yeah. I think it's been a clean sweep from you guys. I'm going to push myself for my truth as well. I'm going to finish out that clean sweep. I think I'm Novak Mikovic out. With a lot of these guys, my talking point is that they're a known variable at this point, and if it's not a clear positive, you have to look to improve it. So for me, that's why I'm Novak out. And
he's a nice guy, though.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
he gave me that great clip. Always appreciate that. But I want to go back to that pin we had put in the board a little bit earlier. This idea of overinflated stats. To me, that came up when we talked about Gabriel Peck, and that's our next question. It's in a similar vein. Is Gabriel Peck out? I think I want to go to Rob this time. To start with you, are you in or out on our Gabigol?
Like right now? Man, we got all these emotions running hot and stuff like that. No, I'm gonna say him in. Like he is a good player. I don't think we always hear trust the process, but I don't think the system is helping him. No one is creating. We see where he thrives, and that's just not the system right now. And I think that even with his form right now, the Galaxy can still probably recoup at least what they spent on him. But it would be lovely for him to get back into form and for them to get. I mean, he was being talked about as potentially the record transfer for MLS at one point. He was being linked with Liverpool at one point. So
million.
So it would be great if he could get back into somewhat of not even just like that kick-ass 2024 form, but if he can get it amongst some goals and teams are like, all right, cool. We see what was up in 2024. We see that, it's not really him, it's the team. We'll take a flyer on him. Here's, 15, 16 for him, I could see that very easily happening. But brass tacks right now, the Galaxy need him. I mean, he's been one of the bright spots, perhaps not in MLS, where only Klaus has kind of really taken off so far. But in the Champions Cup, I mean, he's got 5 goals. He was just named to the best 11 for the round, and he's largely carried the Galaxy there. So, I mean, again, they're going to need him for at least until the World Cup. I mean, I would be very surprised if he moves, but if he does move, I mean, that's when it would be, if he catches a little bit of form, and then they can go ahead and flip him then, so they can make room for someone else, I'm guessing. But for right now, I would say him in. There's not a lot of creation going on. He's got some goals in him, and he is a good lad. He is a good lad. And one of the things that I talk about all the time is that, like, it'd be one thing if, he wasn't producing and you could tell he didn't give a shit, but he works hard. He's está sudando la camiseta. Like he's sweating the shirt. So like, right. I back him to come good.
Okay. Peck in. I want to transition to Dylan because this, again, it just reminds me so much of this conversation we had last night. Gabriel Peck, one of your points is that maybe he's not sudando la camiseta or sweating that shirt as much. So I'm going to pass it over to you, Dylan. Are you in or out?
No, it's not that he doesn't work hard or that his work rate isn't high. I think those things are always true. But also I expect that out of all my players is to have high work rate. So when we're
Douglas
talking,
CrossFit.
well, okay, I just recently had his name removed for a jersey, so that's a good point. But from a 25-year-old who is trying to make a name for himself, I expect that at the very least.
Mm-hmm.
And my issue isn't that he isn't working hard, but if anything, it just feels like he's so inefficient and he's been unable to turn that around that I don't understand the conversation that we have around Gabriel Peck. We all know that the talent's high. We've seen him do it in CCC against weaker opposition, but throughout, it's not even just this year. It goes back into last year when we've asked him to be a DP level player without Ricky Pooch. He just has it. He leads the league in shots per 90. He has 0 goals. That's unacceptable. And to the point of DP caliber players, those guys are the ones that create magic for you. And when we're talking about chance creation and all this stuff, he's clearly getting chances. Now, whether or not they're clear cut, that's a different conversation. That's a Greg Vanney issue. But he's the one that's taking the shots. He's the one missing the shots. And we've needed him to be a clinical goal scorer because that's the one thing that we haven't had in the squad, especially this year. And whether that's between him being too selfish or him just not being efficient enough, I don't really know. And I don't currently love the conversation around some of the other guys that we've had. Because I think Klaus has gotten some shtick for being inefficient. Royce has gotten some shtick. And then Gabriel Peck just is like, oh, well, he scored 5 goals in CCC, so we can't give him crap here in MLS. And I'm like, I feel like we should only be taught. Like, I don't really. Maybe this is just me, and because we were so crap last year in the league, I want to see him be good in the league, and I'd rather have this flipped. But, I mean, we're going to play Toluca, right? So you're talking about the best team in Mexico, or at least in the conversation. Do you expect him to have the same level of play in that like leg, or do you expect it to go back to the MLS? I think that's where I'm at, and I expect him to come down that level, which is sad.
You know what's interesting, guys? Dylan set me up perfectly for what I was thinking about and what I was going to say, which is this idea around inefficiency. Let me ask you guys a question. If I told you that instead of 0 goals, Peck in the league would have 2 goals right now, would that change your perception? Would that change your conversation, the narrative around Peck?
2 goals, 2 assists in 5 games?
Yeah.
Yes.
It also is. It's probably
does
2
change
match
it for me.
winners if you think about it that way too, because we've drawn 2 matches.
It's also not a fair question because it just depends, and this is like one of the things that you pinned, I think, Andrew, which is like, can he score the big goals, the goals that actually win points or that matter? So, I mean, these 2 goals, for all intents and purposes, could have been during that 4-1 before he got sent off. It could have been, and a part of that, it could have been 4-0 instead of 3. Like, we don't know. The context is really important, right? But all I'm saying, my point in saying that was, if you look at his stats historically now, he's never been a high converter of goals. Like, his conversion rate has always been low. Like, even in the championship winning season, 12% goals per shot. If you compare that to a guy like Dayon in that year, he was around 29 or 30%. So he's not that guy, right? But then this now goes to the quality of chances, which you brought up, Dylan, which is an absolutely fair point. The Galaxy, I talked about this with Rob the other day. The Galaxy in 2024 were amongst the elite in big chances created in the league. We were leading the league, and big chances means that's from an XG perspective, it's a clear cut chance. It's a more of a clear cut chance that you have a high chance of scoring that goal. Again, to everyone kind of listening, right? Just to kind of break this down a little bit. So Peck's, of course, not being privy to those big chances either. And he's more of a volume scorer. He's never been an efficient scorer. That goes for JP too, by the way, because both of those conversion rates are about like in the teens, right? So, but if you extrapolate it, 22 shots, he should have about 2 goals, right? That's where he should be right now, and that's just not it. The other thing I'll say too is, so anecdotally, I was actually like spending maybe like 20-30 minutes when Andrew, when you sent over the talking notes.
Yeah.
So I wanted to see some of the highlights and some of the positions that Peck has gotten into. And a lot of them were just at the keeper, like didn't have his balance, just didn't have his bearing straight. And you know what's funny is the YouTube algorithm sent me a couple of suggested videos, and there were highlights of the team in 2024. It's like, all right, let me click on a couple. LA 4-1 against Vancouver. I will tell you that Gabriel Peck in that particular, I watched like a few highlights, but in that particular game, it was 4-1 at home. Gabriel Peck looked like a different person. However, he was just as inefficient. If you go through that whole entire highlight reel, there was Gabriel Peck shooting at the keeper 4 times. But then there was one time where he placed it perfectly. Ricky Pooch put him on, I think it was Dayon, laid it off. He put it on a dime, and he had the confidence. And that's the other thing about this, too, is like he looked like such a different player, like so much more confident. Even when he put it against the keeper once, he'll go back and do it again. And the team as a whole, like, all right, we're still going to pump all these big chances on you. And so it's funny, like, having that point of reference. Like, I look at the highlights from this year in 24, different team, different player. And so, yeah, I encourage you guys to do that if you have some time. Like, it's really interesting, night and day.
Hey, someone, I think it was you, Dylan, that brought up how will he look against Toluca. Just want to bring up, Peck did score against Toluca in the Campeones Cup. He put the Galaxy ahead until the defense threw it away.
That's, you know what, that's fair too. I'm at a point with him though. It's just I don't know if it's just this year for me, and maybe it's because I was there in Portland and I was watching it firsthand, but it just doesn't feel like the impact's the same. To your point about him being just like this inefficient player, part of that was like they were still dangerous chances, and he was still like putting himself in right spots where maybe this really is just down to Ricky Pooch, and I don't love tying him directly to Ricky. That kind of irritates me because I think you should be good regardless. But I just don't feel like his impact, while the number of touches is staying the same, has been the same. Like, I feel like the stat that stuck out to me in Portland was he had 100% passing completion. And I don't ever really want my winger to have 100% passing completion, because that means you're not trying stuff. And your impact on the match, for Gabriel Peck, obviously they know how to mark. You can mark him out of matches if you put 2 on him, but that's clearing space to somebody. And this year, it doesn't feel like teams are doubling up on Gabriel Peck. It feels like they're totally content with going one-on-one with him because they know how inefficient he is. And so they'll play the numbers game and assume he won't have the impact. And I don't know if this will change. This is why I'm not out on Gabriel Peck yet, because he could turn this around very quickly. But I'm concerned, and I think that the sample size for me has been large enough here to warrant the concern. I just don't know how good this team can be if he's not great. Where are you guys at in that? Do you think, like, can this team be... Right now, we're not a playoff team. Can we be a playoff team if he sustains this level? Let's just say he underperforms by a few goals, his XG, comes away with, like, 10 assists by the end of the season.
No, absolutely not. And to your point, like, you said you hated tying him to Ricky. Well, you're not. Like, I brought it up earlier. It's not a Ricky thing. It's a system thing. It's like a tactical thing. Like, the Galaxy just don't have a creator right now that can progress the ball, that can break down the low block, that can be inventive enough or creative enough to get his players to move around him. Like, the Galaxy just don't have that right now, and that's why they're suffering, and that's why Gabriel Peck is suffering. That's why Joseph Paintsel is suffering. Like, they just need a creator of some kind. I mean, Marco Reus is supposed to be that creator, but for some reason they're just really not on the same wavelength. I mean, don't ever really hear, or I can't remember right now anyway, like, just like a really good passage of play between them. It's been pretty instant between Royce and Klaus, but not so with Royce and Pecky. And maybe that's because he hugs the touchline so much. But yeah, there's really just no one to put him in those positions where he needs to be dangerous. And that's not going to change right now because the Galaxy just don't have that player.
Yeah.
You know what? And I don't think it's just a Ricky thing. It's a Mark thing. It's a Dayon thing. It's a 2024 Emmy thing. Like it's the whole thing. Like it's I also like truth be told, like I hate it when I kind of listen to like the whole like Ricky won Galaxy 2021, the 2024 MLS Cup kind of thing. Like, you know, the Galaxy were 3-1-1 without Ricky in the middle of the stretch. Ricky was not in the final. Gaston played in his stead and played a magnificent game. So it was a total team effort. Like I don't know. It kind of drives me nuts. I think there's I don't know. That's just a me thing. But I mean, the funny you talk about like the low block thing. This is a huge thing too, guys. I think Dylan, you've touched on it on a couple of your pods, which is like the Galaxy need to figure out how we can better get into the transition. And you know how we can do that? Winning duels in midfield and getting up the pitch fast, so that the left back and the center back and the defensive midfielders don't have time to double triple up on our wingers. Because when Gabriel Peck is going 1v1 a la Tim Ream against Charlotte, he's gonna smoke you. Like it is what it is. How do we get him in that position? Maybe it's a tactics thing, but guys, can we win more tackles in midfield and get up the pitch quick? That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
100%.
This has nothing to do with our conversation, but we gotta be playing Lucas Sanabria more, because that's exactly what he does to me. He wins tackles, he gets the ball forward. But that's, I think, enough Sanabria propaganda for this video. You get plenty of it in other videos.
Propaganda.
We got Dylan with Peck in. We got Rob with Peck in. Ananda, where are you?
Yeah, I'm Peck in.
Peck in.
Yeah.
Peck in. Beautiful. I did want to ask this question. Let's say.
Wait, where are you? You didn't answer.
I will. I want to pose this question. I want to wrap it up and then move to the next thing.
I want that answer out of you. That's how eager I am.
You get I'm making you wait for it. For now, I want to ask you guys. That's Peck in right now. Let's fast forward to the end of the season, and let's say Ananda that he keeps his assist up, but he does keep up. Let's say underperforms his XG by 2 goals. So let's say 8 goals instead of 10 and 10 assists. Are you keeping him or cutting him after that season?
Oh man. Again, I'm gonna go.
10's better than last year, I think, right?
Yeah.
He was 5 and 10, I think 15.
Yeah, but what a departure from 19 and 15 and 24, right? So it's like I want to kind of get him in between that, and I go back to the context thing, which is like, is he helping us win games? Like literally our
playoffs,
are his goals. Yeah. There's a lot of that too, but statistically, like I need to see like 10 and 10, like, you know, like kind of like how I need to see Klaus 15 plus. I need to see him 10 and 10. Klaus is going to get there, by the way. I think he's just having a little mini slump. I know he was going through a lot with the Eddie Loven thing, because Rob and I interviewed him during the mix zone on one of the games. He was going through a lot. So I just hope this international break gives him some peace there. So
basically that closure. No, that's a beautiful point. Rob, Dylan, that same question. A slightly underperforming Gabriel Peck, and what's your decision at the end of the year? Your Will Kuntz, your Big Manny.
Rob, you want to go first?
8 and 10, huh? 8 and 10. Well, yeah, like I said, I mean, that's still better than last year. It is underperforming where 2024 was, but if he can hit 8 and 10, and like Ananda said, what are the where are the goals? When are the goals happening? What's the impact? But at 8 and 10, you would probably have to keep him, and then but like I said, like I think the ultimate goal is for him and for the Galaxy to eventually move him.
Yeah, right? The way you said that, you have to keep him. You said that like it's a burden. If it's you have to keep him, do you keep him or do you move on?
Well, no, it's more like at that 8 and 10, you have to keep him because the data supports that, right? So it's like it's at that point, it's more of like can we get somebody that's going to give us a guaranteed,
what's out there?
Yeah, exactly. So unless you can come up on somebody better, or that
unless you get a $15 million offer from Brazil,
right?
Yeah. So if you get stupid money, sure. But like I said, I mean that's the goal anyway. Is to move him. I think for both him and the Galaxy. So if they do, but I don't think he wants to go back to Brazil, Ananda. So I think he wants to go to Europe. So I think the offer would have to be from Europe, and I think that the Galaxy could get a team to buy it for 15 million if he goes for 8 and 10. You know, I think
so.
they could.
I think so.
He is still what, 25, 26?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And again, I think any scouting department worth their salt will look at the entirety of the body of work and then the context of the situation in which he was placed, in which he is a player that's not really playing in a team that's maximizing his strengths. That's his brass tacks.
So you're
Right.
saying we ship him to Liverpool for 15 and we get Mo Salah back? Is that what you're saying? I'm just kidding.
Well,
F it, let's go. Like, I mean, if they want to throw in Mo Salah and 15 million for Pecky, yeah, why not? That's
Pipe
beautiful.
dream, by the way. I was
Yeah, no, it is a pipe dream. By the way, everyone's saying that's pretty much San Diego's done and dusted, but I don't really think it is. I think there's
No.
a little bit more intrigue to that. You really think so, Saudi? Huh? Anyway, sorry, Andrew.
no, not at all.
Tangent.
Not at all. That's what this space is for. It's just the Tangent HQ. But Dylan, 8 and 10, are you keeping him?
So I think that if he performs like at a decreased level or the same as last year and we don't make the playoffs, I think everything gets blown up. Right? So let me start there with, I think JP's gone. I think Peck's gone. I think Vanny's gone. And you're restarting the whole thing. And you're building it around Ricky Puig again. But you're starting that whole process over. So, look, I think that Peck is a fantastic talent. But at some point, your talent has to match your expectations. And if he's not meeting expectations or having a bounce back year, right? Because he's still got 5 goals. I shouldn't discount that to a certain extent. But if he doesn't match his expectations, I think you have to move off him just for the idea of a project becomes stale at some point and everything needs a refresh. And this has been my biggest thing with Vanny is like, this is Last Chance Saloon for all of these guys. This whole project is in Last Chance Saloon, which is crazy to think that it started as a championship team. And now we're already talking about it potentially being blown to smithereens within the space of 2 years.
Yeah,
which
dynasty too.
Yeah, and I think that the question just becomes is there a realistic replacement for Gabriel Peck that you can see fitting better with Ricky Puig? If Ricky Puig is healthy. This is the other thing. Is like, we don't know what Ricky Puig is after 2 ACL tears in the same knee.
And that's another question we've kind of talked about. Do you even build around Ricky Puig when he gets back?
You
That's a
probably
huge
shouldn't.
question.
Yeah.
A huge question.
Probably shouldn't.
Very, very interesting.
Truth. It hurts to say, but truth.
Mm-hmm. I loved these points, guys. That was a good segment. But to finally get to my answer, Dylan, Gabriel Peck in, out. Right now, I'm out on Gabriel Peck, mainly for the MLS form. I keep on referencing this conversation. Like Dylan said last night, he was signed to be an MLS DP. What he does in CONCACAF Champions Cup is supposed to be cream. It's supposed to be butter. It's supposed to be extra, right? What we've paid him a couple of million every year and 10 million to get him for was for those MLS goals, and they're just not coming. So if that's the case right now, I have to say he's out. If he has that slightly quote unquote underperforming season at 8 and 10, which to be fair is still really good numbers, 18 goal contributions. It's nothing to sneeze at. It's almost a goal contribution every other game. I think it's more, which again is not bad. And you have 3 DPs. It's something that we talked about last night, Dylan. Those numbers aren't far off from players like Dejan Joveljic, from Joseph Paintsil, from other DPs around the league. So again, the idea is if you have those 3 DPs who perform at that level, you should get into the playoffs. You should compete, but we're just not seeing it. So it's just he's not being a DP. You have to cut him. To touch back on that question I asked you, Rob, like if it's you have to keep him. Like it's all right, he can stay. It's just not enough to me at this point. And like Dylan said, it's one of those things where it's probably better to move on, start fresh. I think get that new hunger in, get a fresh face in, get Peck a fresh scenario as well, then just restart. And I think that's probably best for everybody. So all in all, I am Peck out.
Well, last point on that too, Andrew.
Right.
I was going to I think we thought after the 2024 season, Peck had that MVP level, that he was going to be the Batman of this team.
Yep.
The more we see Peck play, I feel like the more he needs a Batman. He is the Robin. He is not the talisman, not yet, at least in this point of his career. It's Ricky. The talisman of this team is Ricky, undoubtedly, 100%, no holds barred. It's Ricky Pooch, and I just think Peck needs that Batman, and he can be the Robin, because when he's the Robin, pretty damn good, pretty damn good.
Yeah.
But him as the face, not sure, not convinced.
I said that about 3 weeks ago in a video. That exact same sentiment, that he is a Robin and not a Batman. Like a sidekick character, he might be one of the best.
Yeah.
But as the star of the show,
agreed.
not so much.
Yeah, because
and that's what the Galaxy need now, and it's probably what the Galaxy are gonna need again. Even when Ricky Pooch does come back, it's such a massive question. What I think he's gonna be class, but again, you just he can't be the only guy again. You need to have more. So again, repeating, we're going in that circle, but it's just Peck out. But let's go ahead and transition to our last player personnel debate. We got. There he is, Greg Vanney, in or out. I think I'm going to start for a change, and then I'll let you guys go ahead and get into this one. But Greg Vanney out. I've been talking a lot about Greg Vanney for the first couple of years. I've been doing this, writing about the Galaxy for about 4 years now. For really 3.5 of those years, I've been a very pro Vanney person. Even when it wasn't popular, I was very hipster in that sense. You could say I was Greg Vanney in before it was cool. Maybe you could say there's definitely a lot of it, but at that time it was, I want to say, an underrepresented sentiment, I think. Anyway, I've done a lot of positive coverage on Greg Vanney. I've given him his flowers a lot. I've admired and respected him having to take so many hats. You know, I've worked in, Dylan, you've been part of like kind of startup companies where you do have to hold a ton of roles, and like it does, like it impacts your quality of life for a little bit, but you do look back and you're proud of what you did in a way. And, you know, Vanney did that for the first couple of years of his tenure, first really 2.5, 3 years, he was wearing multiple hats. It wasn't until middle of 2023 that he got to finally be the head coach. And for me, like I've explained on COC on this channel, that's excused a lot of pretty major things, like even not making the playoffs. It's just there's so much else on the plate. And the structure around it, we talk about context a lot, was so much worse before this boycott, which is a big point. Like boycotts work. It created some great change. But before that, it wasn't a great situation. So I don't think any reasonable person, at least in my view, could expect Greg Vanney or anybody to succeed in that context. It's just, you're never set up. It's rot from the top end. That's changed, and we're still seeing a lot of similar decisions. And we're seeing a lot of great stuff, too. I've talked about from the beginning of the season that I've loved this switch to a defense-first system. I think it was a great read of the personnel he had when he didn't know too much about how they would look together. He started with that, and I think it's, with this best version of this team, it's yielded some great results. Vanney's been let down by his players in that he hasn't been able to see that version. Rob kind of touched on that. He probably wants his players to come good. I think that's fair. But all in all, I'm still seeing just mistakes, I think, at this point that are inexcusable. Something I touched a lot on all basically week for the past 10 days, it feels like at this point, is Greg Vanney's decision to rotate in that Sporting Kansas City game, with eyes apparently for the second leg in Jamaica in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. We kind of rotated that squad a little bit. We went ahead and lost that game, and then we went with that best 11 in that Jamaican game. And again, to me, that was a major question as soon as I saw the lineup. As soon as you see that Greg Vanney is rotating for that Jamaica game, I had a question, because you were walking into that game with a 3-0 scoreline. In my eyes, that was the perfect game to go ahead and rest these players who have played pretty much every minute of every game. You think of Glesnes, Mayoshida, Edwin Cerrillo has been a workhorse. So a lot of Klaus, who we saw a dip in form when he was tired and really facing these challenges. It would have been a great opportunity. Instead, they all played, and we had to go ahead and do some more rotations. Probably not the best formation in Portland. So you could argue it's cost us 6 points, that one decision. And it could probably lead to costing us more because we're out of whack. Because then that to me is unacceptable, because it's a failure, I think, to read the situation, the team's exigencies, your players' exigencies, and their roles, how they impact the team. A big thing is like Lucas Sanabria versus Elijah Winder. Winder has more starts, has more minutes than Sanabria, when in my eyes, Sanabria has been the more impactful of the two. So I think that's another misreading. So I'm questioning way too much of what Greg Vanney is seeing, and I'm just kind of over it at this point. So for me, I am Greg Vanney out. I have a lot of love for him, a lot of respect for him. He was my mom's boy crush when my dad would take her to the Rose Bowl back in '96. You know, Greg Vanney means a lot to me and my family. He shouted my mom out in press conferences. I have a lot of love for that guy. But in terms of if he should continue being the Galaxy coach, I think it's time. So for me, it's Vanney out. Love, peace. Thank you for all the conversations. It's been such a privilege, I think, to cover Greg Vanney. Rob and Ananda, you know that he's such a treat to talk to. But I'm going to miss the pressers. But I'm ready, I think, to talk to someone new and to hear about a new direction. So I want to open the floor to you guys. I think I want to open it up with Dylan this time.
Oh man, you already going to me?
We can pass it, but
yeah, let's pass it because I think
Okay.
that I'm in a similar light to you, so I don't want to be too much of the
Sure.
same way. And maybe you guys are a little different. Maybe.
You want to take it, or you want me to go?
Nah, I guess I'll go. I mean, I it's funny because Dylan says like I'm kind of on a similar wavelength, and it's I'm gonna say just answer the question right now and say Greg Vanney out, but I'll go ahead and tell you this. I, like Andrew, was very much in Greg's favor, and defended him quite often. And then there was a couple of reasons why. There is always the argument of like, who would you bring in? Is there someone better? Now there are viable candidates out there. There's a Jim Curtin. There's a Wilfred Nancy. There's a you can go ahead and name any number of coaches now that could do the job credibly. So, but more than anything, it's just if you're looking at the way the team plays, I just don't like the way the team plays. Like to be honest, like I watch this team play every weekend, and it doesn't thrill me, mate. I don't get excited anymore to see this team play. I know how they're going to play. They're going to like Charlotte is the exception and not the norm. And we can say what you want about well, he doesn't have his best player, but again, that boils down to the argument of should one player really throw off the equilibrium of an entire team? And yeah, if that player is like Ricky level, like yeah, it does throw you out of whack. But you had 2025 to kind of adjust for that. It didn't happen then. Then you had an offseason to adjust for that. It didn't happen then. And now you're 5 games in, and we're seeing an improved Galaxy for sure to 2025. But that's not saying much because 2025 was historically low, right? But again, brass tacks, I just don't like the way the team plays. I've called it out a couple of times. Like they get into positions where they beat their man, they have the space, they have the time advantages, and for whatever inexplicable reason, they pass back or they pass to the side, and they don't take advantage of their own good work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like you're doing the work to get into these positions, and then you're just throwing it away.
I'm gonna jump in and out. We've called it like approaches on the show. We create a ton of approaches, but we don't turn it into chances.
Exactly. They're great until they get to the final third, and then when they get to the final third, or even a little bit before the final third, because when it does get to the final third, then it breaks down into like, let's get the perfect absolute shot, and let's not take a rip from outside the box when you get a half a chance and force a keeper into a save. Like that's just like a novel idea. Like pick up a rebound, get some trash in there. But anyway, like I said, it just boils down to that. I mean, Andrew, you said it, like I'm ready for a new conversation. The brother Lex, Galaxy 310, after every game, he puts out like a quote, and then he goes, Greg Vanney, probably. And then like we get a quote from the actual press conference, and it's strikingly similar. right? Like,
Yeah,
because we know by this point what kind of conversations we're having,
we've heard it
and it's
before.
exactly, but it's because it's the same old failings
Mhm.
that they've been having even since 2024 in their game, their championship winning season. They still had a lot of the same problems then. They haven't changed. So that with the team just not inspiring me, not thrilling me, not like making my heart go flutter, and maybe hell, maybe that's not the goal anyway. Maybe the goal is to just get those butts in the seats by any means necessary. But that starts with winning matches, and that starts with playing good soccer.
I love that. You should have gone last. That's a beautiful transition. But I want to let Ananda go ahead and answer that question.
Yeah, I
as
was like,
well,
I'm
'cause
gonna follow
you're
that
gonna
up.
give us a cátedra as well. You're gonna teach us.
Well, I'm usually more of the like mad scientist, like data person around this. But no, in this case, like I think we know the data. Like the data is he hasn't had a good record, right, with his tenure with the Galaxy. If you put me on the spot, I am in the spectrum of because I'm not completely in, nor am I completely out. But I am
He wants
more
to be
out.
by the door.
But I am more out than in. And my thing is, I'm gonna let him live and die by his own sword. But the reason why I am more out is because I think there is something to be said about the voice in the locker room getting stale. Like I've heard and seen that analogy thrown around on other teams around the world, and there is a layer of truth to that. But the only thing I can't get out of my mind is that, damn it, his players have let him down this year. His player, like in 2 occasions, point blank.
Yeah.
We've played, let's just call it 90 minutes with a man down this year. And what a different conversation we would be having if we would have like maybe
6 more points,
3, 4, or 6 more points, just more points in general.
Mhm.
Like I was saying from the start of the season, first 5 game stretch, 9-10 points. Just that's a decent enough start. Like that should be the thing. But because of those boneheaded mistakes and his players letting him down, we are at 5 points after 5 matches. So that's the one thing that irks me. Because like Greg has put so much faith in these guys and these players, and for them to do that and like basically make him like hang him out to dry,
Yeah,
that's tough for me to take. Like
That's
especially if I'm in like Will Kuntz's shoes, like that's really tough for me to take. Now granted, you can look at like games like Portland and I mean obviously Charlotte, we had a good matchup, but man, like you might be able to question some of his substitutions. I honestly think he didn't really do much wrong in Portland. Like I think it was just us missing chances, like 7 shots on target. Like again, his players letting him down, right, fluffing their lines. And I don't know, like, because I see people online say, "Well, isn't that all on coaching?" Kind of. Like you can prepare them, but at the end of the day, like Greg Vanny's not the one kicking the ball in the back of the net. Greg Vanny isn't the one fluffing their lines. Like Greg Vanny isn't the one that is getting silly red cards after you have a yellow and you get another yellow just because. That's the part that like irritates me because I can't, like I wish those factors were taken out and I can have a very objective opinion on this. But I can't because those things are still in the back of my mind.
But doesn't the discipline come down to man management though? Like
some of it.
Don't you know that this about Emmy and go, look, blood, I know you get hot, like just out there be easy, and then follow over the top with, yo, Jakob, you know this motherfucker. Oh, sorry for the cursing. You know this cat. You know this cat gets hot. Keep reminding him or communicate with him. So I think a little bit does come down to the coaching. Of course he's not the one taking the action. And then the Gabriel Pecky one was this. Who knows? But it's like, again, if you brought it to the voice in the locker room, right? Like if you have your voice's coach in your head, if that voice from the locker room, it has that hold on you in that moment, you're not going to be doing the silly things that you're doing. You're going to be remembering, like, okay, like discipline this, play like this, play like that, play for the team.
Yeah, but to me, Papa, that's self accountability. These guys are grown men. They're professionals. Like, how much coddling do we need these players?
Sure.
Like, Greg actually, by the way, tried to proactively take Emmy out of
Yes,
that
that's
match.
very true. That's
Because
very
he
true.
knew he was right.
Yeah.
We saw it. You and I were
Yeah.
next to each other. He was like, he was about to go
You
out,
win.
and he actually like tried to proactively prevent that from happening. Even though, in my opinion, that's an over coddling. But that's fine. That's good man management, I guess. In that particular case, well, not man management, but
It was for a
trying
knock,
to
he had
he
mentioned.
was trying to protect his players,
Mhm.
and that was totally cool. But he still did it. Like, I don't know how much of that comes down to coaching and how much like I'm sorry, like Douglas Costa getting that red card, like, bruh, like you're not gonna coach that. Like, you're not gonna coach that out of him. Like, it is what it is, right? So it's like
To Douglas
it's-
Costa.
yeah, it's
today.
like
Elliot.
what do they say? Like 2 to 1, half a dozen the other. It depends on how you look at it. But for me, like, you can't. That's self accountability. That's personal accountability. Like, you can't pass that off. In my opinion, that's just me though.
I agree with that. Like we said earlier in the show, I think Greg Vanney has done a lot right this season. I think his systems work. When his best 11 is all out there together at the same time, it works great. Again, I think his ideas in Portland, I agree, he didn't do much wrong besides what he had already done by preparing for the
That I agree with, by the way.
In
That
my
I
eyes.
agree with. I 100% agree with that. That I could mark him on for sure if I'm
No.
marking his remit or his report card. Yep,
Absolutely.
100%
No,
agree
but
with that.
I want to give him his flowers when they do. I do think he's done a lot of the things right this season. It's just that his players have put him in bad spots. Vanny's job is to coach the team out of those spots, and I don't think I think he's hurt more than helped the team with his decisions. So that's why, again, if
Fair enough.
you're on the door frame of in and out, that pushes me out, I think.
Yeah, but like I said, I want him to live and die by a sword. Like, let's see how they go in CCC. Let's see how they go in this next 7-game stretch in April, and then probably another 5-6 game stretch in May. Let's see how we are in the summer. I mean, if we're miring in 13th place, I'm with you guys. Like, but then that now becomes a conversation that Dylan brought up. That's actually really, really apropos, which is now you have to have a transition plan. And what are you going to do? You're going to blow this thing up? Hey, there's some good talent coming out of the World Cup. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, well, and then that's another thing, right? So like, you say, hey, let's go ahead and stick with Vanny. You let him buy players after the World Cup. Then he doesn't succeed. You fire him, and then you bring in a coach that didn't have that opportunity to get players, right? So it's like, I almost feel like they have to make a decision right around the World Cup time as well, right? Because we always said on LaCuna, right? What are we gonna base it on? The first 10 games, right? We've seen half of those first 5, that first 10, and so far not that great. So he's gonna have to turn it around in the next 5 in a tough April, and so again, the Galaxy is in an unenviable situation. I think the sentiment that Will has is much like Greg has around Novak. He wants Greg to come good. He's furnished him with pretty much everything that Greg has wanted. Like, he called out very vociferously for a striker. He got it, right? He called out for a new backline. He got it, right? The only thing that he didn't get was that number 10. And like I keep saying, it's hurting, man.
Yeah. Anything else on that Greg Vanney in or out? Any final comments from anyone on that?
Yeah, I have I'm obsessed with Bielsa. I think he's one of the greatest managers ever. And there was a translated quote.
Addicting to listen to. I wish you knew Spanish. You would love to hear
that's the biggest issue is I don't know Spanish, but the translation came out, and it was, there's a short path to winning, which is to play better than your opponent. There's a more accessible path, which is I'm not going to play well, but I'm going to prevent the other team from doing so. When you try to play well, you have to assume risk. And this couldn't have been any closer to what I feel about Greg Vanney. We are constantly trying to play better than the other team in the sense of we're going to hold the ball. We are going to dominate possession. And eventually that will be better than you on the day, and that will get us over the line. I have been pretty consistent since last year. We are not a possession-based team. I continue to say that, and I will continue to say it until I die. This team has not one single player where I go, yeah, that's a possession-based player. Our 3 DPs, the team is built around DPs. That's how it works in MLS, right? Your structure is based on that. We have I would argue, 3 of the best transitional players in the league. We play a possession-based style of football. And to your point on not winning midfield duels, well, we're not winning midfield duels because the other team barely has the ball. And so when we are getting transitioned, we're not you have to choose an avenue, right? So if we're going to be that ball dominant, I'd like us when we lose the ball to immediately go into the lowest block humanly possible, because at least we can create space in behind that way. But we're not doing anything. We're like stuck between trying to be just the best possession team, and I think we're still 9th, and we've had a red card in 2 games. That's
2-5.
We've had like 60% possession, and if you watch us play compared to the way that like San Diego plays, it's like we're playing 2 different sports. It really is in terms of possession style football, and I just feel like we're beating a dead horse with trying to be something we're not. And eventually you need to look in the mirror and say, I think we're something different. And we're not going to talk about it in depth on this one, but the Casemiro links that came out today are exactly the style of player that changes that way that you play. Because Casemiro is not a possession-based footballer, but he is a direct footballer. And that's the thing that we're missing. I actually don't think the creator portion is as big of a deal if we just played more direct. We just don't play direct. To your point, I think you talk about it all the time in your guys' podcast, but the horseshoe effect that you get, that comes from not playing direct. Because if you were just trying something, right, at least the ball gets turned over and you can potentially win a second ball or something can happen. But we're so, I don't know if it's tactical or they're just drilled to this point where they feel the need to not be forward thinking. And when we talk about the players that have been forward thinking, it's the young guys. Or in this last game, honestly, for me, it was Hack. Like he made a couple of line-breaking passes from center back.
First time we've seen those.
That has to happen all the time, and it just doesn't happen nearly enough. Like the amount of times that our right winger or left wingers are taking a hesitation on a cross, like, no, just whip it in. Like the worst thing that happens is they clear it and we reset because we're dominating the ball anyways. But we're just so one-dimensional. There is no other plan. There is no way of... I just can't remember the last time I went into a match and went, well, we made the other team play better than us. It was more like we tried to be better than them on the day, and we just strictly got out. Like, we didn't even get outplayed. Like, they just beat us at our own game. They went, all right,
we said we shot ourselves in the foot.
Yeah,
we say that a lot too. Yeah.
Here's the possession. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, friend of the show, Sophie Nicolau, always says there's an obsession with this possession that I don't understand in the modern football. And one of the things that I could dock Greg Vanney on as well is he hasn't really evolved, in my opinion, as a coach. Like, I think the best coaches in the world, even Guardiola's of the world, even Arteta to a certain extent, better or for worse, we'll find out after this year, they've evolved to something and holding on to something based off of personnel, based off of how they see other teams playing them. And I think that's the one thing about Vanney that we haven't really seen is just he's been really rigid. Like, he hasn't been flexible enough. Like, you know, can we play something other than a 3-2-5? Can we do a 3-1-6 or a 4-2-4 or play through the left side versus being a right side dominant team? Throw teams off. Like, you don't want to galaxy brain it, but at the same time, there needs to be some sort of positional flexibility in that system.
I remember,
and I think the best coaches do that, in my opinion.
Yeah, I just want to jump in really fast. I remember when Glesnes and Hack signed, that's something that I think got a lot of people excited. We could play a lot of different systems. We talked about like 3 at the back, just all this variety with like Hack as a midfielder or as a defender. I remember me personally, at least, I got super excited by that. It's time for Greg Vanney to flex his creative muscle. In those press conferences, he's always talking about, oh yeah, we're testing out unique things. He's mentioned like Mickey Amana in the midfield, for example. He's talked about how he is flexible. He is doing these things, but like you mentioned, Ananda, we're just not seeing it as much. So, yeah, interesting.
Can I give a word as a headline for this portion? Because Rob started with it, then Ananda said it, I've now said it, and you were alluding to it, Andrew, in the very beginning, which is Greg Vanney is predictable. Like, we know what's going to happen every single game. It's predictable.
Yeah.
You know who's sitting with the starting lineup? I think when we did our prediction, our preview, Dylan, for COC, I think we might have nailed it.
Yeah, we said that he was going to. We said he was going to drop Sanabria, play Royce, and we were going to play possession-based football. And we went and did the exact same thing.
Yeah,
again.
absolutely.
And you know, ironically, who's unpredictable and is a chaos agent? Vicky Pooch.
Yeah. They actually.
He's like, screw this. I'm picking up the ball, driving it 50 yards, and you guys follow me. Yeah,
Yep.
I got it.
Well,
Same
we
way.
saw Greg mention it a couple times in 2024. Like at the beginning of the year, it was a lot of like, we're trying to get Ricky to fit into the system, or like,
Bring that in.
yeah. And then at the end of the year, it was like, we were kind of, giving Ricky the license to do the blah blah blah, because he
Yeah.
couldn't reel him in, But that was how the Galaxy had the best
And
success.
he's doing moonwalks and doing some samba with an Emi Garces,
Yeah.
and life was good. Life was good. Anyway,
Oh, life was great.
How bad do we miss that guy? Yeah,
Oh, man, it feels like a dream now.
it does feel like
Fever.
So
dream.
it's been a pretty negative hour. We've gone really, really in depth on these three figures: Novak Mikovic, Gabriel Peck, Greg Vanney, and none of us are very happy with a lot. I would say their resume in totality, but they've been here for at least 2.5 years in the least case, but in more 3, 4, 5, almost 6 years at this point for Vanney. It seems that the LA Galaxy seem to be rewarding mediocrity in a little bit. Let me find the right one. But these aren't necessarily players who are lighting the league up, lighting the team, making big contributions. Greg Vanney hasn't made it to the playoffs every single year. He doesn't have this impressive win record or a goals for, goal against ratio, whatever it is. There's nothing really that stands out besides that 2024 Cup, which I know you don't like this idea, Ananda, but it just keeps on coming up, this idea that we kind of just talked about it. As soon as Ricky Puig kind of ignored Greg Vanney, things started going fantastic. And how much of that can you give to Vanney if we're talking about things like that? So I think it has to be credit in the bank for him. How much, and how much in the context of the rest of his tenure, I don't know. But all of that to say, he recently got this massive contract extension. He's one of the best paid coaches in the MLS, and he signed that on a dotted line in the middle of the worst start in MLS history. So we see whether or not it was the Galaxy's intention is one thing, but we as fans saw mediocrity getting rewarded in a pretty massive way. We're seeing Gabriel Peck continue to start every game, continue to collect this massive salary. Novak Nikovic collect this not insignificant salary and take up a pretty important part of the team. And all these players are not delivering, but they're still there. And so that begs a question that I want to ask all of you. Is mediocrity the standard in LA Galaxy? And ergo, is the LA Galaxy a mediocre club? I don't know who wants to take that first. That's a spicy
loaded question.
that's a loaded question.
I've talked about it a lot on our pod, how Galaxy fans wish the Galaxy was Seattle Sounders, or like the way
Yeah.
they run their team, because they've been the model of stability throughout. Like, just look at that 10-year period where the Galaxy were ass, right? Where they didn't do a goddamn thing. Look at Seattle in that 10-year period. There was several championships. There was several Champions Leagues. There was a Champions League win. There was, I mean, they continue to do that, right? So the Galaxy have a title in 2024, but beyond that, they've largely missed the playoffs a bunch. Copped transfer bans were mismanaged at the top, and the FO became just a kind of like a laughing stock when it got really bad, before 2024 and like 2022, 2023, like teams were just like, it's just a Galaxy, right? It's like Sir Alex used to say to United about Spurs, guys, it's a Spurs, right? So that's how the Galaxy had become. And 2024 made us think that it was going to be a return to the days of yesteryear, right?
Yeah, and we saw that backed by all that change in the front office. There was
right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, there was definitely evidence that that it was going the right way, and I still think there are the pieces in place to bring the club forward, or the team rather, because it's not a club team. But right now, it is a mediocre club because the standard has dropped, and it largely has been okay. Again, butts are in seats. Everything is
business as usual. As long as the checks keep cashing, who cares about the product?
Right, they're gonna come anyway. They're gonna come
Yeah.
anyway. So
Yeah.
let's just give them whatever. Let's throw a couple bobbleheads at them, and let's keep it rolling.
Yeah. Dylan, how does that make you feel?
If I'm gonna galaxy brain this segment, the league as a whole allows and protects mediocrity because of the structures in place within the league. Like, how many teams have done the same exact thing we're doing? Like, SKC was awful under Vermees for like 3 or 4 years before they finally got rid of him. Orlando just had a coach for 6 years. Could you imagine us talking about a Premier League team and them like, look, we have this conversation sometimes like on Arteta. And Arteta's like been one of the best managers in football over the last 5 years. But I just find this club moving the goalpost constantly on everything, whether that's the way that they interact with supporters or our players or our coaching staff. Something is always getting discounted or moved to the side because of this. There's always an if or a but or a maybe. We don't ever deal in absolutes. And for a team that should be considered one of the biggest in the league because we have the most history, you'd assume the same thing. In the way that, I mean, Rob sees it, he's a United fan. We should treat the Galaxy the way that Manchester United are being treated. But we don't because this league has told us, and our club has told us not to. Do you know, I mean, could you imagine if it's pretty similar timelines of things? Like the Galaxy were very good for a period, right? They, their manager leaves, they lose their star players, they go through a 10-year drought. That's the Galaxy. And instead of like the fans and everyone kind of revolting to a certain extent and getting this crazy release, it's been the opposite. And then honestly, 2024 might be the papering over the cracks of all papering over the cracks.
Yeah.
So yeah, we are a mediocre club in that sense. History and our fans will tell you otherwise, though. Like I would say that our fan base has the goalposts don't.
Fan base is elite.
Yeah, but the club has told us that they want to be mediocre.
Ananda, te toca.
Well, the only thing that I want to add to this conversation, and it hurts me to say this, which is not only are the Galaxy, as I'm going to use your guys' words, moving the goalposts or have dropped their standards to a level, we are now mediocre in our own backyard. Yep. And that hurts as hell to say that.
Mm-hmm.
And we could have another neighbor crashing the party that's about an hour and a half down the I-5.
We do.
And so this sort of maybe peer pressure, if you want to label it that, is really shedding a spotlight, is really putting a bigger spotlight on the Galaxy. And I think that whatever happens this season, man, like I just think like that peer pressure is going to get to a lot of fans. I hope it gets to the front office and the team because like, even not only on the pitch, but off the pitch, guys, I mean, you could probably agree with me that like the Galaxy are not the best in that sense as well. So, and that's, I mean, everything else you guys have kind of laid out. So, and I wish like 2024 wasn't an aberration. I thought that was, I mean, we had Christian Miles on, Rob, remember, and he said that Will Kuntz was represented a paradigm shift for this LA Galaxy organization. He still can, by the way. Like, we have to see how the season goes, but right now it's not looking great. And then the question becomes, well, then does there need to be another paradigm shift somewhere along the way? And does Greg Vanney maybe leaving the team and like us blowing up the roster, is that going to be the signal for that? We don't know. That's a whole multiverse that we could be living in, but it could also not happen. Like, I don't know. But just the mediocrity thing in the face of our neighbors, like I think that's the part that hurts a lot of Galaxy fans, is that bit there.
Yeah.
Very, very true. Very salient, I think. Good read of the situation. As for me, nothing new to say. I think it gets harder and harder and harder, and it's been very, very hard for a while now to argue anything other than the Galaxy being a mediocre club. And at times it's even felt like calling them a mediocre club is a bit generous. So again, I have issues with the way that the team markets itself. That's what they should do at the end of the day. But I think the issue is with the incongruency, the marketing, the branding doesn't match what we're seeing. And that's kind of true in a lot of things in life. We're seeing this a lot. Like we talk, this idea that Rob kind of brought up, as long as the checks keep coming in, as long as consumers keep consuming, as long as fans buy tickets, the team doesn't necessarily have to worry so much about the product. That's really what it felt like was happening during that 10-year drought from 2014 to 2024. It was the team, it felt like banking on that reputation and kind of coasting. And we saw how fall immediately it felt like that product fell. But that was okay because ticket sales and season tickets kept growing every single year. The product was allowed to get to the awful product that it got to. And that's kind of the same in a lot of things. We talk about, you can talk about Hershey's changing their recipes, all of these companies changing their recipes, shrinkflation, inflation in general, all these cost cutting measures, regulation cutting measures, all these different things that are just making everything worse. And it brings up that question, I have my things out of order, but all these things that we're seeing with the Galaxy, it feels like it's a mirror of what's happening in real life, that the people in charge are doing whatever they can to make their margins as thick as possible. And that hurts the consumer. It hurts us, the fans, in that we have to pay. We spend a lot of time. I think of the supporters, the SGs, they invest a ton of resources, energy, they organize. There's so much work that goes into it. That's a massive investment besides the financial. We invest so much in these teams without getting anything back, just like you're investing so much in your health insurance, let's say, or your food bill, and you're just not getting anything back. The product just keeps on getting worse. And it's kind of, why is that happening? Why is it happening in soccer? Why is it happening in everything else? And it's unfortunately just the way of the system is. We're going to get a little bit woke. It might feel like we're separating a little bit from the soccer conversation, but this impacts soccer as well. It's just that's what happens in a late stage capitalist system and especially in a system where we're seeing these regulations, the regulation cutting, these cost cutting, all these things encouraged. It happens in business. And at the end of the day, soccer is a business. So it's happening in soccer. And we're seeing this mediocrity be rewarded because, again, the ticket sales keep going up. We see the product not changing. We see people not getting fired when maybe they should be. None of that happens until the people do something about it. So that's that next question, is how do we create change? And I think the LA Galaxy the LA Galaxy fans in 2024 or in 2023 were a perfect example. The team was at that point having the worst season in league history. We went ahead and beat that right after. But in 2023, they were breaking all the wrong types of records. Things looked historically bad. Ricky Puig was still there at the time, but things were going awful. And so the fans boycotted. They decided they had enough, and they hit the team where it hurts, in their wallets. And they stayed home. They didn't show up. There weren't ticket sales. People weren't buying beer. Suddenly, people weren't buying jerseys. And that reflected in the TV marketing. I'm sure the viewing numbers, if anybody's turning on a TV game and you see an empty stadium, it looks like a preseason or college match. You're changing the channel, and you're definitely not at least buying an Apple TV subscription. So I'm sure it hurt, again, all these decision makers in the league in a massive, massive way. And so immediately the team buckled. They got hit where it hurt, and they reacted. They don't care if the product goes down, but as their margins go down, if the profit goes down, that's when we start seeing change happen, because they'll do whatever it takes to make that change happen. And the Galaxy showed that. And, myself as a little, if you haven't picked up already, I do have some leftist beliefs. I do support a lot of those ideas. So to see that, I love seeing the people having their voice heard, I thought. So I thought that it can maybe spread for other soccer teams. It can maybe spread in the larger world. But I love any time there's evidence of people coming together and forcing and creating that change for the benefit, of the rest of the Galaxy community. We all enjoyed such a fantastic 24 season. I think for me, it was one of my best years as a soccer fan. It's the season I've enjoyed more than anything. It's the most rewarding sports experience I've ever had. And I have the boycott to thank for it. I have the fans who grouped and got together to thank for it, not necessarily anybody at AEG or in that front office. So I think that's a very important thing. And all of that to say, I guess all of that to bring that question, the club didn't do anything until their hand was forced, until the people got together and used their power and forced some change. So the Galaxy have already shown that they kind of are putting profits over the product, profits over people, that the people being their fan base, right? Us, you, me, the fan who pays, who I think of my dad who busts his ass on roofs all day to take his 2 kids and wife to a game, spend $200 to get back, and then wake up at 4 a.m. the next day because we love it. And those are it hurts that that's not enough for the product to reach a certain standard. But it's good to know that we as people, we do have, that voice, that volition. And if you want change, you just got the playbook. That this is how you do it. We saw it in 2023. If we want change, the only way to see it is to demand it. So if you really do want Greg Vanny out, if you want Gabriel Peck, Wilkins, whoever you want out, that's how you do it. You got to go demand it, and you demand it by not spending, by keeping your money in your pocket, spreading it in your community if you want, in ways. Go start a soccer league with your best friends. Go do all of that. Spend your money in other ways, and let the team know that until they make that product a certain standard, you're not going to be there. It's unfortunate. We have to demand it in that way by hitting them where it hurts. But it's a reminder that at the end of the day, it's not the people in charge who have the power. It's us, the people who make the fan culture. If you look at MLS marketing, it's the fans they show. That's the passion. The love comes from us. It doesn't come from any suits. So understand that you have that power where you decide to invest your money, your energy really shapes the future. It shapes, as big as that might sound, it's true. Realize that you as people have power, and you got to organize to execute it. So I've kind of gone on a little bit of a monologue, but I want to open the floor to, I guess, just comments or anything on that.
I was going to say, man, you should have put yourself in single screen. I mean, forget us. Like, that was all you, Pa.
That was good.
Yeah, man. I mean, comments. I mean, yeah, you're absolutely right. The Galaxy, they're owned by a huge corporation that has, I'm just going to say it, a owner who has conservative Christian nationalist views. And so yes, you're right. They cannot be expected to do the right thing, even though they have within their organization plenty of really, really good people working for them. As a whole, as an organization, we cannot expect for them to default to the right thing as it pertains to doing the right thing for the people, like you said, because they're a huge organization. They're going to put, what are they there for? They're there to make money. They're there to make profits. At the end of the day, soccer's a football, soccer's a business now, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. So we say it all the time on the show. Because soccer is a business, we should be okay with having the conversations about Vanny out and Peck out and stuff like that. But on the flip side, because it is a business, that's the bottom line. Putting butts in the seats, no matter what, and getting away with as much as you can for as long as you can until they call you out. Now, you brought up the boycott, right? It was productive, and it was indirectly or directly responsible for the 2024 championship, right? So this instance was a powerful instance because something like that had never been done by a supporter group or a block of fans in MLS before. It picked up national attention, but the risk is that you overplay and you overdo this too many times. It starts to lose its power, right? But what needs to be happening is that once you do this and the powers that be come to you to open a dialogue, you open that dialogue and you establish lines of communication so that you don't have to do that again. And you can go ahead and go, look, in this open dialogue that we have, we're unsatisfied with this, and this. They've done that to a certain extent with the supporter groups, mm-hmm. but it also needs to be amplified. It also needs to be more frequent, and it has to be one of these things where it's not just supporter groups, it's the fans at large. They need to find a way to engage the fans at large to find out what is really important to them. And Andrew, just to answer your question, yes, if the fans do want to take action in the immediate, it is with their purchasing power. You know, like I said, the bottom line is the most important thing for AEG and as a consequence of the Galaxy. So if you're dissatisfied, don't spend your money. That's just plain and simple. I know people that have been withholding their dollars from the Galaxy ever since the Chris Klein era, and they continue to do that. They won't go to games unless someone takes them to a game, or like someone gives them tickets, or and you know, like they're like, hey man, I'm wearing my old ass Galaxy jersey that I got like 15 years ago, because they would not spend the money to buy another one because they're dissatisfied with the project. But saying all that, is you got to be strong on that kind of shit. Like you have to
be organized. It can't.
well, it has to be organized, and then you have to actually stick by that shit. You can't like make concessions and be like, oh well, you know, like damn, that the new kit dropped, so you know, like I'm just gonna get like this one thing, you know, like you have to like actually like live that shit, and you have to be about it, right? So I mean, at the end of the day, I don't think that there is enough traction, enough dissatisfaction at the moment to go ahead and get to the point where they're boycotting right now. But I mean, if things continue to go this way, I mean, that's not out of the realm of possibility. Again, Galaxy fans have seen that it's worked before. They have waged protests even last year, and they made their voices heard. So I mean, if that's an avenue that they need to take, Galaxy fans, I mean, make yourselves heard.
Agreed. Don't move goalposts. The club does enough of
Not
that.
at all.
So
Not at
don't
all.
move your own. And I think that there's this stigma behind like not speaking your mind or not speaking your truth. And the whole reason I started a podcast is because I wanted to speak my truth about the team that I love. And I think that everyone has the right to do so. So whether or not as fans we disagree with each other, which happens often, don't move your own goalposts and continue to speak your truth, what you feel is valuable for the team. And I'm not going to tell anyone that they're right or wrong in the way that they feel about the team. And whether they choose to support them by backing with their dollars, that is their decision. But from our point of view, I'm going to continue to give them crap because I think it's heard at the end of the day. Like, I believe that the Galaxy do hear some of these comments, and I don't think it's taken lightly. I think that they take this stuff to heart. And so at least as a fan of this club, I'd like to think that that is true. And if it gets to a point where it's not, I will no longer support the club because they don't hold my values. And that's kind of where I'm at.
Absolutely. And anything else? Yeah.
Well, I mean, you guys kind of ran the gamut there. So I agree. I think everyone has a right to support the club that in the way that they want to. And I also think that, you know, especially like fan to fan, like this, like judginess of things, just let everyone have their piece. Like they're gonna follow the club, and they're gonna have their perspectives on, because I mean the reality is, like, you know, everyone's dealing with stuff. Like everyone's dealing with their own stuff, and you know what, the Galaxy for them is like a 2.5 break from life that they want to enjoy. And if it's causing more pain than enjoyment, then you have every right to, you know, to do whatever it is that you need to do to show your disapproval. And I mean, who am I or who are we to say any, you know, anything else? So yeah, I think you guys run the gamut, and I think Galaxy fans, it's all up to you, and you guys, you know, do what you feel like is best in your heart.
Yeah. I think something else I want to clarify. I'm not calling for us to organize, to start a boycott and revolt. Let's tear the system down. That isn't what this is about. It's about, I think, just making people who maybe feel a little bit powerless. I understand, especially as a fan, that feeling of my say, my opinion doesn't matter. I know for a long time, I wouldn't comment so much on social media and posts because it's like, who's going to see it? It doesn't matter. But as I've gone through, I think this journey of covering it, something I've learned is that your words do matter. Expressing your thought, taking it from your mind and putting it out into the world. Someone hears it always in ways you might not expect, but you got to keep putting these things out there. And I think my objective is to empower people to make the best decision for them. Think about everything we're talking about. Ananda, Rob, Dylan, and all we try to do is cover this club with as much love, first and foremost, but as honesty as possible. What we try to do is just let you know what the situation is. empower you with that information, and then you go ahead and make that decision. I think the important part for me with this conversation is you do have a lot of power, not just in your football club, but in the rest of life. I think it's easy to feel powerless in general in a lot of ways these days, but that's not the case. We are the power. You are the power. I said it in our episode. I think I'm going to reference our conversation last night one last time, but I said it yesterday in terms of Gabriel Peck and him having to believe himself. You know, I said, Jesus is in you. The power is in you as well. You have all of that within you. So whether it's in your day-to-day life or it's in how you want to support the galaxy, understand that you have that. Move empowered, move with kindness. And I hope this conversation was enjoyable, brought you, taught you something, showed you a different perspective, or reinforce a perspective you might have, whatever it is. I hope it was valuable to you guys in some way. Ananda, Dylan, Rob, who had the bounce because he just has so many people we want to talk to who are in demand. Ananda, if you could, let the people know where to find both you and Rob, and leave them with anything else you want to say.
Yeah, you can find Rob in his written word at the Sporting Tribune, and you can find him at El Escudero de LA. So I'll give him a shout out there. And then you can, as I always say on our show, you can always follow me, block me, or stalk me if you think my takes are ridiculous at Ananda Galaxiana. And then you can find us on all your socials at LaCunaGalaxiana, and of course on YouTube Mondays and Thursdays, 9 p.m. See you there.
Love it. Thank you, Ananda. Thanks again for so much time. Super, super generous, both of you guys, an hour and a half. This is fantastic. But yeah, some really, really fantastic points. I've definitely missed, I think, a lot of your insight, and I'm really looking forward to getting a lot of it.
Thanks for the invite, man. This is fun. We should do it again.
Thank you. No, I'm really, really hoping to. Let's get even more woke. But Dylan, any last words, and remind people where they can find you?
No, my only thing is it's a pleasure always talking to you guys and getting to spew about the galaxy. It's my favorite thing to do, and I think this community and this team allows us to do that. For our stuff, COC Network, you've seen Andrew there all the time. You can follow the Cosmos stuff if you want to just stay with this galaxy stuff, or if you want to see me and the guys get angry at Premier League Soccer, you can follow us at Clash of Clubs. And then I'm going to special shout out our TikTok. We are like 40 away from 1,000 followers. So if you are a doom scroller like myself, please just hit us with a follow. That'd be great.
Yeah, definitely do yourself No, thank you, man. But do yourself a favor. Definitely check out everybody's TikTok here. But I know Dylan, especially, he is putting in work on getting the short form to long form. Tons of videos every single day. Lots of content coming out on Clash of Cosmos, but also from LaCuna and also from us here at Nuestra Galaxia Futbolera. It's the NGF and NGF Andrew. You can find it on Twitter, Instagram, Nuestra Galaxia Futbolera. Here, the YouTube channel, NGF Andrew, and the written word on Los Angeles Sports Nation. We got the weekly articles coming out there. We should have one tomorrow or Friday, depending on how much I want to expand, but it's going to talk a lot about what we've talked about here tonight. So definitely check it out there. You can subscribe for free, get that insight, and join us in the press box for totally free. Thank you guys again one last time for such a good conversation. One last reminder to the people, you have the power, walk with kindness. Thank you guys for following along here on NGF, and we'll see you next time.